Coach, on the whole video conferencing thing, how big is that for you? What do you see as the biggest concerns, but also, again, just how important is it for you to have some kind of connectivity right now?
It's critical, to think, especially with new offensive and defensive schemes, to not have this where we would be at from a development standpoint, I can't even imagine. So the ability for our coaches to connect with their players, and I told them too, even before today, when last week and the week before, when we weren't allowed to have virtual football meetings, I implored our coaches, they need to see your face, and whether that's FaceTime or whatever, but they got to see your face. They got to, there's just something about the human connection when you're talking about, facial expressions and nonverbal communication and all of that stuff. And then now that we're starting football meetings, these apps nowadays, like we're on right now, Zoom, it's got a whiteboard feature. It's got a share your screen feature to where you can, talk about video back and forth. So, we're going to use it to its fullest capacity.
Tom, every coach gets into their routine and kind of finds their ways that work. And now it's like everybody's starting from scratch. How odd is this to try to figure out if your way is the right way and kind of trust what you're doing, because there's no handbook, there's no history.
No, there's no blueprint. That's for sure. I think, you've got friends in the business that you trust. I know for me, I've reached out to Kirby at Georgia and Dabo at Clemson, and, Dave Aranda is a first-time head coach having to go through this. He called me when this thing first started. So we're all kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing, back 2 weeks ago, it was kind of the Wild West, right? There really were no rules. And we were a bit lucky because we were scheduled to be on spring break at that time anyways. And I remember a conversation that Dave and I had, and he was, talking about captain's practices and keeping everybody in Waco and this, that, and the other. And I said, David, you do, obviously it's your program now, but, I said, just as a having been a head coach now for going on 6 years, the morale of your team and your staff are really, really important. And you've got to be sensitive to what is going on in the world. And obviously he didn't wind up doing anything like that, but in the early stages, we all were talking about stuff like that. And I kept going back to, we've got to be sensitive. We've got to make sure that our players are safe, that they have a safe place to stay, that they're healthy, that they're eating, properly, that they have quality academic support, and then they've got a workout plan to stay in shape, and beyond that, everything else will take care of itself. The football, the X's and O's, the, quarterbacks throwing to receivers, all of that. Like we got bigger problems in the world right now, guys. So let's be very sensitive to every individual and their needs and what's going on around them, and put a plan in place to do what we can.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Coach, a couple things on Sam. I know you mentioned in the teleconference his injury. Can you just update us on that real quick, what that is?
Yeah, he's been fully cleared to work out, and we've got him on a throwing progression, if you will. So each day is scripted. How many throws, what types of throws. Obviously, he hadn't thrown for 3 weeks, so we want to be cautious with his shoulder too, and all the stuff. So it's kind of like a pitcher coming back for spring training. So and to be honest with you, the injury was such that throwing was one of the things that gave him the most pain because of the rotation and where that floating rib was. And so, but he got cleared Tuesday or Wednesday. I talked to him yesterday. He's already thrown, and he says he feels great.
Looks like it's on me. So, Coach, the workout side of things, I know that your players have varying amounts of equipment and just their circumstances are different. How do you come up with a plan that's going to serve a guy who might have a home gym in the garage and also serve a guy who might be at home in an apartment with 4 people and no equipment?
Yeah, to be honest with you, when this first started, I kind of envisioned kind of a 3-tier plan, if you will, like program A. Hey, I've got access to a weight room. Great. Here's your workout routine. Program B, maybe I got some dumbbells and a bar. And then C, it would be, I got nothing. But Coach McKnight, and to his credit, and I can't thank him enough, he's gone above and beyond that. He's literally called every player, found out exactly what they have access to, and tailored a specific workout for them and what they have access to.
Who wants the next one? Go ahead, Bob.
I forgot Bianco can mute us, which is really unfair. So just a couple more on Sam. First off, the idea that he's trying to raise $1 million and do what he's doing on that front. And then second, just his leadership ability in a time like this for the entire team and program. How fortunate are you that you can rely on someone like that in a moment like this?
Oh, it's a blessing. I don't know any other way to put it. I told the radio and print guys earlier, like, they asked me about it. I said, I would have been surprised had he not started a GoFundMe page. The fact that he did it is no shock to me. And that's certainly not to diminish what he's doing and trying to do. It's just, you've come to expect that from that young man. And I talked to him for a good while yesterday. He's in a great place, and he's excited to be cleared so that he can work out and throw again. And also excited to use his celebrity to help his community and his sphere of influence. And that's the one thing about him that I will always remember, is that he never took selfish advantage of his celebrity and influence. He's always used it to help other people, and that's rare these days.
Go ahead, Roger.
Hey, Tom, one of the unintended consequences for all of us, obviously, is time at home. We've seen some stuff on social media. You spoke in the teleconference, and then also your ability with Michelle to kind of pitch in the community and maybe for you just to kind of stop and pause and see what's around you. I imagine, like all of us, you kind of get in your own vacuum.
Well, yeah, my wife says I live in a bubble because I have to ask her what's going on in the news and all that stuff. So I've kind of burst out of that bubble a little bit these last couple of weeks and paying a lot closer attention to what's going on in the world. And to me, the silver lining in this, if there is one, is the time with your family. And we're going on starting week 3 of this, and I'm still sleeping in my bed and not on the couch, so that's a good thing. That Michelle hasn't tried to kick me out yet, but we ate dinner as a family 5 nights in a row last week, and I'll be honest with you, and it's not for lack of effort. It's everybody's schedules are so different. I've got a 16-year-old, 12-year-old, a 6-year-old. They're all involved in different activities, and so I don't know that we've had dinner as a family 5 times in the last year combined, and we did it all last week, and that was awesome. I played Uno and Monopoly and the Game of Life and ping pong and cornhole, and I read books and played video games. My son is trying to teach me how to play Fortnite. Like, I don't know what the heck that is, but I know it's quality time with my kid. And so that's been good. But you're right. Michelle and I do know that there's a lot of demographics and communities out there that are in need. And it was really important to us, to give. We wanted to spread our giving, one, because there are some, there are multiple organizations that are near and dear to our heart. Two, we wanted to make sure that it went to, the front line, if you will, that the money was going to get put into action ASAP. And then three, we wanted to make sure that we were helping the most vulnerable in this time, the homeless shelter. My dad was homeless the last few years of his life and actually passed away in a homeless shelter when he was 52, and to give and help those guys, maybe we save someone else's dad, and where my dad couldn't be saved. And, the Safe Austin, I've been witness to domestic violence in my time and know that, that those people need as much support and need, and the list goes on and on, from Meals on Wheels to the Central Texas Food Bank to the Boys and Girls Club. I was in the Boys and Girls Club when I was a kid, and I can't imagine, what my mom, if I was a kid, if we had to go through this when I was a kid in my family. So long story short, I am enjoying my family. That's not to say we're not working. Obviously, I'm here with you guys right now. But we are, and we're recruiting our tails off and in constant communication with those guys. But I do want to, again, implore Longhorn Nation, give what you can, even if I know time is hard right now because we're supposed to stay in our homes, but, resources, even energy, even a retweet or a like to something could spark somebody else to give. So, there's people out there that need us, and we want to do our part as a community here to make sure that they're getting the help that they need.
Dennis, go ahead.
Coach, where do you weigh in on any kind of idea of like a mini camp? If you really can't get any work in and the season is about to start up, do you think you could get what you needed done in some sort of mini camp, pro style mini camp?
I'm smiling right now, and the only reason is because when you first started to say weigh in, where do you weigh in? I was like, does he really want me to tell him 210 pounds? Like, is that what he wants right now? Yes, I've been eating a lot over the last 2 weeks. Like, is that what you wanted to know? No. So I think anything will help. I do know that once we do get our players back, it's going to look a lot different than it has, because you've got to be cognizant of their time away from the program, and so you want to be very cautious. But I was talking to another coach the other day, and it's been done in college football. In fact, it was done for about 100 years. Where guys had their last final in May, and you handed them a workout, and you said, I'll see you back for the first day of training camp. And that seemed to work out okay. Everybody, and obviously that's changed. We're certainly more of a year-round operation now in the last 15, 20 years. But, for 100 years they were doing that. And so I think we'll figure it out. I do know, though, that it's going to have to look different on the field, making sure that you're keeping guys safe.
Jeff, you got a question?
Yeah, sure. I know that over the next 60 to 90 days, we'll learn a lot more about what the next football season could look like, if there is one. Could you imagine a fall without football?
I couldn't 2 weeks ago. I can now. Just knowing, it's whenever our country's been in crisis, we've always had sports to turn to. I'll never forget. I mean, one of the moments of your life where you'll never forget where you're at is when after 9/11 and President Bush threw out the first pitch and the crowd at Yankee Stadium was chanting USA, US. I'm getting choked up even thinking about it, but it's what has always brought us together. And now you're telling me that the one thing that is causing this crisis is jamming 100,000 people into a stadium next to each other. And so it's hard because we don't have that outlet, right? We don't have sport to kind of take our minds off of some of the tragedies that are going on around the world. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't imagine it now, knowing what I know, gathering information over the last couple of weeks. I don't think anything's off the table.
Roger, go ahead.
Tom, I know you guys love to have your guys together. Part of it, there's just so many of them. How difficult, and you're just starting, but to not have your guys, I know you get to meet and do some things, but, always kind of as that parent mode of wondering what's going on with all your guys.
Oh, it's hard for me as a head coach because I got 105 of them, right? And I got 10 coaches and 50 other support staffers. So the guys really on the front lines have been our assistant coaches and a few of our operations staff, and they've done a phenomenal job. I mean, daily, if not multiple times a day. Today's the first day these guys start online classes. And what that's going to look like. And so for me, it's I've picked out about 10 or 12 guys every day to try to reach out to and connect with. But, the assistant coaches are the ones that are in constant communication with them, as well as the academic people and the strength staff and the nutrition department. And so there's a lot of parenting still going on. I can promise you that. But me personally, I miss the heck out of my team, man. I miss them because I don't get to see all of them every day like I did, and it's been hard. But our assistant coaches are doing a great job of keeping these guys headed in the right direction.
You got time for a couple last ones if anybody has one. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Coach, just on pro day, I know you mentioned you can't do a whole lot, but I think about a guy like Poona Ford that was an undrafted free agent that's, doing great things in the NFL now. Is there anything you can do in terms of, talking to NFL coaches, calling NFL coaches, or anything to, on those guys' behalf?
Yeah, I remember Pete calling me on Poona, and I, as it was getting closer and it was looking like, Poona might not get drafted, and he didn't get drafted. And I said, pay him. I mean, he get him on your roster somehow, some way, figure it out. And he did, and it turned out phenomenal for him. So, they've got a lot going on. So it's for me to just cold call 32 NFL coaches, I'm probably not going to do that. But I do know when, like when I talk to Coach Belichick, it'll be a good 45-minute to an hour conversation about our guys.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Going back to the meetings that'll take place on, I guess, a platform like this on Zoom between the coaches and players, what in your mind is the best, most efficient structure to that? Is it one-on-one, assistant coach, player, 20 minutes a day and get as many as possible, or are they longer meetings?
Well, we only get 2 hours a week. And so what we've settled on is Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll have 50-minute meetings. And then on Thursdays, after that position meeting, we'll have a 20-minute special teams meeting, which will be a challenge. I mean, you're talking about 40 some odd guys sitting on a platform like this, plus coaches. But the position meetings will be similar to this, right? A coach and, you know, however many players are in his unit. And these apps are so incredible nowadays. You know, there's whiteboard functions, so you can draw diagrams, and there's the show my screen part to where, you know, you can watch video together and go over a playbook page or whatever it is. And then the one thing that our coaches have done a great job with is they've gone back and on their cut-ups, you know, when you say, okay, hey, we're going to talk about 4 verticals. Well, we've got, I mean, I don't know how many times we threw 4 verticals in the last 3 years, and Coach Yursich has his cut-up. You know, I mean, there's probably, you know, 100 different plays of 4 verticals that a quarterback can watch, which is great. But what our coaches have done now is they've really taken advantage of the voiceover feature in our video software. And so basically they're creating a clinic, if you will, that our kids can access whenever they want. So, you know, the coaches can say, hey, you know, go ahead and watch X, Y, and Z, and you know, you'll hear my voice, and you know, see you know, you can telestrate on it, the whole 9. And so I'm really proud of the fact that they've come so far using that technology already.
Roger, did
Tom,
you-
you want to put together a championship team in these uncertain.
Hang on.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just, you know, the big picture. Obviously, we're always talking about, do you have the team to win a Big 12 championship, things like that. I mean, I know Kirk would say that anyway, but you know, we're in these uncertain
You said
times.
that. I didn't, by the way.
I'll take it, but it's just so weird because you know, we're looking at the micro and not the macro, and usually it's the other way around. Where, you know, we're talking about, do you feel like you have what it takes to win a title, and you've got a senior quarterback, one of the best players in the country. Does your mind go back to that when you're talking to your coaches, and can there be a sense of normal as far as that goes?
I don't know. I know, again, these 2 weeks, you know, winning any kind of championship has been pretty far from my mind. It's been about the safety and well-being of our players. It's been about my family. It's been about our community, and all of that. We've got time to worry about that stuff, but I do know this. I do know we were really excited. I do know that we kind of had this year targeted a little bit when we first got here and started recruiting at the level that we were recruiting. So, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of other bridges that we got to cross before we get there.
Hey, Bob, you had one?
Yeah, no, I was just kind of along those lines. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people know that you had a lot of the X's and O's in place, you know, before spring practice had started. So you may not be as far behind as you might be, but what are those challenges going to be over the next 3, 4, 5 months to try to play catch up? And then, you know, hopefully, if, you know, we have a season and all that kind of stuff, when you go into August, like what are the biggest challenges without having spring practice?
Yeah, like you said, you know, nowadays the football is pretty much year round, and the NCAA has allowed us, you know, meetings during the winter. They've allowed us walkthroughs just recently in the last couple of years. They've allowed us position-specific conditioning drills. So the knowledge of the offense and the defense is not going to be an issue. That's they'll know the offense and they'll know the defense. But you know, there's also, you know, the best way to learn is to fail. And you know, when how do you fail? You go out and practice and you do something wrong, and then your coach tells you what you did wrong and how you did it incorrectly, and then how to do it correctly the next time, and then you learn from that rep. And so there is no substitute for that, for game repetitions. But you know, I'm not worried about the installation of either side of the ball. I think we'll be right where we've always been come a training camp. It's just going to be the body reps and the muscle memory of our guys learning how to do maybe some new and different things.
Is everybody good? It's 2:00, so it's probably a good time to wrap up. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys. Hook 'em.